November has passed once again, so you know what that means. It is time for some themed letters for my friends' birthdays. Our Patreon challenge theme for October and November was magic, which you might be able to tell from my Halloween video. A magic themed letter has been on my list for so long, so let's do this. The first thing we need to do when starting a magical letter is press some colorful fall leaves in an old tome so that they may be prime to send for potion ingredients by the time we need to send our letters off. Then we can begin crafting. We are, of course, making stickers, as always. I'm using the same label paper that I always do, and I'm just drawing some magical witch-themed stickers onto them. I was a kind of forest and plant witch for Halloween, so we are bringing that theme into the letters, of course. I included things like potions, an eye, a cat, crystals, an owl.
Nice owl.
Mushrooms, all sorts of magic related things I could think of. I lined them first, and then we have to go in with color. I use literally whatever markers I have. Permanent markers, alcohol markers, highlighters, whatever I have that is the right color that I need for the drawings.
If I could be with you tonight, I would say you would sleep. Never let them take the light behind your eyes. Cariño, eres un amor. Cariño, pintas en color. You know it's deeper than the rain, it's deeper than the pain. You know it's deep into your name, something I can take away. Hey, take off.
I always get people asking about stickers, so while I don't have the means to sell physical copies of them currently, I did digitize them with 2 different color variations, so if anyone wants to print them out on label paper, or if you want to use them digitally, if you have, I don't know, a planner or heck, in an email, I am going to put those over on Patreon and Ko-fi if anyone is interested. I will also include all of the little PNGs separately, and it will have a whole bundle of everything all set up for you already. At the end, I went in with my CT interference that essentially adds some little metallic pigments that color shift in the light. This is so beautiful. It's really subtle. It's just kind of a little small element to throw in to add just a tiny bit of magic. I use this on my Witch's Treehouse project quite a lot as well. After all the stickers are done, we just need to cut them all out. I usually like to leave a white border around the edge. First of all, it makes it easier to cut out, but also I just think they look a little bit nicer that way as well. Whenever I get any kind of packaging that I think could be reused, I keep it. I am reusing a couple of little plastic bags to put these in. I left out a few of the stickers for me to use later and then put the rest in for them. I also added a top label bit to staple on and just make it look kind of like its own designed sticker pack. I decided a bookmark would be a really cool thing to include that would be flat and could fit well in an envelope and is a little different from some of the things that I've done in the past. On a section of watercolor paper, I am doing a painting of various potion ingredients. I just chose a bunch of random stuff that I thought would look really cool together and create a nice color palette. Starting off with a bottle of Stardust, I'm kind of trying to stick with a color palette that is quite similar to how I designed my Halloween project and my witch, with a lot of dark purples, kind of orangey, gold, yellow colors. Back in November it was still fall, but I always love a fall color palette. I did a raven's feather. I also did a ladybug, some early morning fog, a mushroom, a daisy, and one very shiny crystal. To make everything extra magical, I decided I wanted to have a glow-in-the-dark element to everything in the card, so I am using some glow-in-the-dark paint for the first time. I've heard many very mixed things about it, but I figured I would give it a shot. So I discovered that it works the best on light colors, preferably white. It doesn't really show up very well on dark colors, you'll see. I'm painting on all the mushroom spots with it. I'm also making this kind of like a potion ingredients list, so I'm writing how much of each thing you would need to put in this imaginary potion that I've come come up with. So of course I went over that with the glow-in-the-dark paint as well. Really anything that had a light color, I just went over with the paint. So, and then the moment of truth, we had to test the glow-in-the-dark strength. Going in with extremely low expectations, I was honestly pleasantly surprised. It is quite fiddly and you need to layer it, but overall on white it works relatively well. I'm also sure that the glow-in-the-dark paint would be 10 times better under UV light, but I do not have one. Then I just went in with some finishing touch details. On the back of the bookmark, I needed to go ahead and paint a quick, simple flower painting just so that there was something on the other side. I didn't want to make it as complicated as the first side. I had a whole lot of letter left to still make, so I did that essentially in a completely different style. I think it was kind of nice to be able to have two different sides. I decided I wanted to line that painting to make it look a little cleaner, so I did that. Then I wanted to laminate them so that they stay a little bit more sturdy. We had these self-laminated cards from the dollar store, so I'm cutting one of those in half. I'm not gonna lie, I did not cut this in half very well. So this is basically just a big sticker. I stuck one end in and then started peeling the paper off and pressing it down snugly with a ruler.
You are seeing as much as me right now.
Kind of the same way you would do, I guess, like a screen protector or something. This part went surprisingly well and was relatively easy, thankfully. I went all along the edges to seal them off. I honestly don't know if these are going to stay on that well. We shall see. Or I guess my friends will see. To decorate the top of the bookmark, I need to punch a hole in the middle, and then I cut the lengths of ribbon that I needed, sealed off the ends of the ribbon with a flame so that it doesn't fray or anything, and then I'm threading that through the hole that I made. Now, as always, we need some aged paper. I've done this in several ways in the past, but personally for me, tea dyeing is my favorite because it is a little bit more subtle. As always, I'm starting off by crumpling and folding normal printer paper to weather it and give it some different areas for the tea to sink more into. Then I've got my little basin of tea. This is a second steep of some Earl Grey, I believe, so it is a little less strong than usual, but that's good for me. It's also just what we have. Dipping and flipping the paper in there to make sure it all gets covered.
It smells so good. Black tea is one of my absolute favorite scents, so this is just joyous to me.
And then we have to hang it to dry. It wouldn't be a letter video on my channel without some stained paper drying on a makeshift graduation rope clothesline in my shower. Truly. Then to prepare for writing our letters, we gotta make some fun custom stationery. And guess what? It's gotta have a moon with a face on it. Who is surprised? I also painted some little filigree decorations and added a border, and then it was time to write our letters. Dearest friend, luminous times are upon us once again as we enter the waning days of the present year. It is curious. Although conjurers we may be, the one thing we cannot seem to fathom is the passage of time itself. It feels like just yesterday I wrote to you from this very spot, though in truth, it was hundreds and hundreds of days ago and in a different land altogether. As if everything has changed, yet scarcely anything at all. But one thing that will never change is the place for you in my heart, my friend. And that is why I write to you in these days of November, to celebrate another year touched by your magic. The remarkable thing about sorcery is that it begins in small miracles. A spell cast to the most minute morsel of our lives, but from there it only expands exponentially and unexpectedly. And though you may cast your spells in small ways, the influence of your enchantments spread and enrich every part of life. It is a special power you hold, that which takes your own spark and can make others glow brighter just from being near. There are perhaps no words to speak surely on the gratitude that lives within me for being able to call you one of my greatest friends. For within you is the divine, not that of mystic power, though you hold that in force too, but that of rapturous kindness and soul. A person such as you comes along seldom, even in a lifetime such as ours. In a world surrounded by illusion, you are the unshaken truth that remains unafraid and doubtless. That is all to say that this day is a hallowed one, for it is that which has awoken your magic, and none could compare to that. Each day I thank the arcane that you and I have crossed in this lifetime, and hope we will be destined to in every one after. So with that, happiest of all your days, and may there be more shared than we can even imagine. With mysticism and affection, Devin, Seer of Luna. To seal our letters off, we of course need some faux wax seals. I'm using hot glue, as always, because I don't have wax, with my Order of the White Lotus stamp that I made way back in my first letter video, and I'll keep using it every year and nobody can stop me. If I can sneak an Avatar reference into a project, I certainly will. I painted those purple, and then of course, to bring the light shifting magic, we need to add a layer of CT interference over top, which also kind of gives it more of that wax seal look because it adds a little bit of a glossy finish on the top as well. I collected our pressed leaves as they were finally primed for magic potion making. We're gonna use a couple of the pressed leaves to put on the back of our wax seals and give it just that extra little bit of fall. I'm also including a couple of tea bags, as always. I got this one specifically for these. I thought a spicy chai would be a good one to go with this theme, as it's quite cozy and great for the kind of fall weather. And who doesn't love chai?
Oh, rat. That's what I get for trying to use instant. It just doesn't work like it does when you make it from scratch.
I need to make a little envelope to put this in, so I'm cutting that from some red rosin paper that I'll be using a lot in this project that we had some scraps of left over. Envelopes are very simple. You just kind of need to fold all the tabs and glue the sides together. Of course, I couldn't just leave it at that. I'm bringing in some of the nature theme with some orange kind of plant designs climbing all the way up the envelope. And then for a front label of that, I am cutting a piece of tea-dyed paper. My concept for this was that it is witch's brew. I came up with a fun little label design for that and put a spell for instruction, as if you even really need instructions on drinking tea, but in warm cauldron steep this brew and feel the magic grow in you. In my opinion, tea is quite magical. I stuck that on the front, stuck our tea in there, and then sealed it off with some little cup of tea stickers that I had made earlier. I went in and added some more glow paint onto a bunch of different parts of each of the elements that I'm including, just to add that magical glowing element all around the letters. As a last little trinket to include, I am making some little monster eye charms from Sculpey. I'm doing it quite simply, so I'm just adding some eyelids on and giving it some fun monster skin texture. And then I painted the eyelids black and the iris purple to fit the color palette, and also added some glow paint to it. And then finally, I gave the eye part a coat of gloss varnish and sealed the monster skin around with matte Mod Podge. I threaded that on a cord I cut from my high school graduation tassel since it matched the colors well, then attached that to a message that sort of explains the glow concept. Magic lurks beneath my face, lying in wait for you to discover. So put me in a sunny place, then shroud me in darkness to uncover. Let's be real, all of these spells are just excuses for me to be able to write some little poems. And after the inside of the cards were all done, I needed to make the envelopes. I'm making these from red rosin paper, much like the ones for the tea bags, just on a bigger scale. Folding and gluing it all together. I've always really loved when envelopes have a design when you open it. So I am painting the inside with some flower print in my color scheme with purple, yellow, white, and orange. This is pretty simple again. And then attaching the flowers together with some leaves of the same colors and just trying to balance it all out. I wanted the outside to have some kind of decorative trim, so to do something like lace, I'm making my own from construction paper. So I'm cutting a scalloped border and then I glued that on the edge of the flap of the envelope. Then I punched holes in the middle of each of the scallops to mimic lace. On the front, I am painting on a kind of mystical scene with a crystal ball at the center where I will write the names and addresses. As always, sticking to our color palette.
Let's start a revolution. How beautiful it is. Resolution written on your hands.
I'm adding some little sparkles and using our magical CT interference again for maximum magic. Then I'm going in with a sponge brush and kind of dry sponge brushing some kind of fog or mist. Then I'm going in to line everything with my favorite chunky ink pen, writing on my friends' witch names. I always have to create some fun character names for all of us to fully commit to the theme. Put the rest of the stickers that I had set aside that I had made all around the back and front of the envelopes, and then our letters were complete. So let's send them off to them, shall we? I absolutely love working on these letters every year. I have a whole list of themes that I want to do at some point that I'm sure I will be working on for many years. But since we were already in the magical witch theme for Halloween, I figured this was the year for that one. If you want to see the behind the scenes for all of the making the witch room and the costume, that is already over on my Patreon from Halloween. And there will also be an additional bonus video over there if anyone does some themed letters, witch themed or otherwise. I would absolutely love to see them, so please send them my way. I have the best friends on the planet. I'm just so grateful to have them in my life. I hope they could feel just a little bit of the magic when they received these. There's never a bad time for magic, in my opinion.